on an excellent inspection today for hail. So first off, when we're on the skylights here, these are aluminum. So those will tend to get damaged around 1.5 inch hail. We have an evaporative cooler, commonly called a swamp cooler. If you go around to this corner here, catch it in just the light right, might be able to see that there's a small dent there. And these things are kind of monsters. If they get dented, your roof is probably dented. Coming around to the side here, HVAC cap. I mean, just look at that fun one. Coming down here back towards the skylight. Now these dry out as they get older, and so that just happened to be at the right age group. But this is where it gets truly beautiful. So look at these impacts. So that's made by a sharper one. This is made by a rounder one. And when once hail gets above 2 inches, it'll take multiple shapes. So there's a few different ways it can look. And this can be commonly confused with the acids of bird feces. So it's actually kind of interesting the shape that these can take. So this is a smaller one. This is probably from about 2.5 inch max. And you can see the impact was right here. And it did chip away some of that, but not too much. Now when you get to this one here though, you'll see that it cut through. I mean, it shattered all the way through. It broke that mesh. There's no getting this up to check the backing, but you can see it. You can see another tear there from another hit. And based on where it hits in the shingle, it'll have a little bit more or less protection from those tears. And so what you'll see here is you'll see the edges of the damages. So that should come out to about 2.5 inches. So if that's 2.5 inches wide, that means the stone that hit it was probably closer to 3.5 inches wide, if not a little bit wider, depending on its shape. Now this one here, you can see that it is cracking outward, so we know that's probably not a part of it. So it's probably closer to that 2 inch mark. So that's a little bit closer to 3 inch in size. That one here is a little bit closer to what would be a 2.5 inch hailstone. And so this is what extreme hail can look like once it gets above 3 inches. And you'll see some areas where it was smaller, and rather than chipping everything away, it actually just made an indent, but you can see all the way around that it has broken it. Now the thing I will note here is look at the threads, look at how that gray coloring. So this should look fresh and black. Trying to get this to focus properly. So see that gray coloring? This should look fresh and black. But you see how it's kind of deteriorated there. And you'll notice, I usually don't like to do this, but for this example only, you'll notice if you look inside there, there's a bit of dirt. Now what that tells me is this happened quite a while ago. So this is definitely extreme hail. All signs point to it. But look at the oxidation, look at the amount of dirt in there, look at the deterioration level, look at the thermal cracks branching out from it because it was broke. And so what we know here is that this is older damage. Now, I'm not talking a couple weeks or a couple months. I'm talking more than a few years. So my guess would be, looking at these now, just looking at them, I would say these are at least 3 years old, but no older than 10. Now, the thing about it is that I do actually know the approximate age. I have it narrowed down to 2 storms, and the reason why is because those are the Rocky Mountains right there. Now, for those of you who have lived around Colorado, you know this is the view probably from Colorado Springs. So I'm in Fountain right now, and I'm a bit towards the more northern side, but I am in Fountain right now. And so Fountain had massive storms up to about 3 7/8 of an inch. And I'm not going to say these are the record breaker here, but 3 7/8 puts us at around 2018 to 2019. We had 2 storms that were large in size, large enough to be this damage here. And so even like the clipped shoulders, look at the valley there. So what we have here is we have hail damage that is 5 to 6 years old. Now that becomes a little bit more apparent. This one's probably the best example of what you're looking for on that dirt. But this is what older hail damage looks like. So this was probably something that maybe went unnoticed. Maybe the home was unoccupied at the time. And just look at that indentation there. So that is a beautiful example. Now, beautiful from the perspective of if you're looking for hail, it's easy. Horrible from the perspective of this actually shattered through the top layer of shingle. Some of these are dented on the second layer, and the way these shingles overlap, you're going to have 2 layers here, plus the felt to protect it. Well, it's broken through the first 2 layers, and you can see the stains. It is clearly getting behind the shingles, but it has a very nice felt, and that felt is what's protecting the roof inside because it's synthetic. And so rather than absorbing into the felt like it would with 15 or 30 pound, it's running down the face of the felt and thankfully coming out here, at least in these areas. I can't say that about the whole roof, unfortunately. So that is kind of an example of older damage, larger damage, and why choosing a good felt is important if you live in an area like El Paso County, Colorado, any of the major hail zones. So that's a lot of Texas, pretty much Colorado if you're I'd say within 25 miles either direction of I-25. I would recommend it. Parts of Wyoming, northern New Mexico along I-25, any of the major hail zones of the US.